I almost feel like we should have the Jeopardy theme on here.
Almost, yes.
You see it? Can you hear it? No?
No.
It's okay if we can't hear it, as long as other people will feel it in spirit.
No, see, that's the lag time. That's why I got to mute the site. So I'll share my screen so you can at least see the words.
That would be lovely. At least we know where we are in the song.
Sing at your leisure.
Okay,
Yeah.
so I will call this meeting to order at 6:30, and it is the regular council meeting of the Township of Leeds and the Thousand Islands. And the next item on the agenda is O Canvas, so I'll ask you to rise and stand while we sing. You might want to mute everybody, Madam Clerk.
Mm-hmm.
There. Thank you. Very good. Yeah.
Thank you, everyone. Okay, so we'll move forward with the next item on the agenda, which is declaration of interest and general nature thereof. If anybody has a pecuniary interest, if you could please declare it now. Surveying my counselors, I see none. So we'll move forward with the consent agenda. So I need a mover and a seconder that December 14th, 2020 public and council meeting minutes and the January 11th, 2021 committee of the whole meeting minutes be adopted as circulated. Any, mover, Councillor Olkey, and Councillor Fody is the seconder. Any discussion, any errors or omissions with those sets of minutes? Councillor Fody, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The last page of our committee of the whole meeting on the 11th, the accolade to Bob Runciman is listed as a provincial. It should be written as federal. It's just a minor technicality, but nonetheless. It's on the last page of the last minute of the last meeting.
I'll update the signed version, the signing version.
Okay, thank you. Any other errors or omissions? Councillor Olkey?
Excuse me, was he given the Order of Canada or the Order of Ontario?
Ontario.
That is a provincial. That is a provincial order.
Was it? I thought it was the Order of Canada.
No, I believe it's Order of Ontario. I didn't want to correct you because I wasn't 100% sure. So, but
I'd rather you correct me than me correct the minutes wrongly.
So I think it's the Order of Ontario that he received, which is a provincial order. Yeah.
All righty. I stand corrected.
Any further errors or omissions? Seeing none, we will call the vote on that. All those in favor, please signify. All those opposed, and motion carries. Okay. Next on the agenda is staff reports, and the motion reads that council approves staff reports as presented at the January 11th, 2021 committee of the whole meeting minutes, with the exception of the finance report SR-005-21-2021 municipal budget. Can I have a mover and a seconder, please? Councillor Jameson. And a seconder, please. Councillor Olkey. Thank you. Motion is now on the table for discussion. So are there anything in the staff reports that need further clarification? Deputy Mayor Lackey.
Yes, I'm sorry. I was not at the committee of the whole meeting, but I did have some the water and the wastewater budget.
Okay.
How did that go? Like we can't raise that budget so much. I know we got to cover you know, a lot of our future expenses, but do we have to do it that much that fast?
So in December, if you go back to the report for the for the January 11th meeting, showed that on the December meeting, we approved a 3.5% increase to the rates. So we reduced the amount of increase to give us time to get better data to model better reserve fund studies going forward. So we did decrease the amount of, or we did the first step of decreasing the amount for the increase that was proposed. And then the further discussion, I guess, for last meeting was more about do we really have enough in reserves? And there was some discussions about separating wastewater and water reserve funds. I don't know if there's anything else on a high level, if there's any other councillors that want to chime in, or the treasurer.
Through your worship, just as you just said, the rate increase was previously approved at the 3.5% increase. So this is the budget now just lays out based on that estimate of revenue, based on those rates, what expenditures we estimate for 2021, as well as then the net transfer that will go to the reserve fund at the end of the year.
Was there any further clarification you needed, Deputy Mayor?
No, that's fine.
Okay. Any other questions or concerns? I'm just looking at the business report. So it was the general rates and fees bylaw, water, wastewater budget, community and business services report about the recreation working group, and the uncollectible tax account balances. Oh, I recognize Deputy Mayor Lackey. I'll just, while I have the uncollectible tax account balances here, I did do a little bit of extra digging, and I believe that it was sent out to the rest of council, if I'm not mistaken, that those uncollectible tax account balances were properties that were located in the St. Lawrence River, which are rarely seen rocks, if you will. So those balances, rather than us trying to continue to collect them, they are being written off. But there are no properties of note that would provide any value as far as like lots of record to the township, that sort of thing. So I'll go to Deputy Mayor Lackey, and then I'll go to Councillor Maybe.
Thank you, Your Worship, and through you. Just as a note, I go by the arena every day. There's been some issues with the town that I'm sure you're aware of. Some of the boards are missing. Some of the glass is missing because the way it was constructed. And now they've decided that the oh my God, they can't make the ice. And the concrete is broken. So, I mean, it's just been for lack of a better term, a crap show up there. Whoever's on this joint committee, please don't get involved with that.
I believe it's myself and Councillor Fody and Ms. Goodman. So we will be negotiating in the best interest of the township, and we appreciate that input. Councillor Maybe.
Thank you, Your Worship, and through you. For the rocks that are in the St. Lawrence River that aren't going to have taxes collected, is there any appetite to bring them back into the township property? Because once we write this off, they're still under people's names, and we're going to be doing this, or this opportunity to write off these again in the near future, or 2 or 3 years will happen again. Is there any opportunity to change how this happens or to mitigate this happening again? Thank you.
Treasurer, and then I'll recognize Deputy Mayor Lackey.
Through your worships. So we would have to go through a tax sale process again. Sorry, it sounds like I'm echoing.
You're okay now.
Okay, sorry. Tax sale process again, I believe, so that we could vest the properties into the township's name. But personally, I'm not sure that that's something the township really wants to take on. It will create some liability to have property located anywhere. So if having rocks in the St. Lawrence, I'm not sure it would provide any benefit. It might provide more liability in terms of if people hit the rocks and decide to take some sort of legal action against us.
If it was property, if it was actual property that was accessible and potentially we could use it for other purposes, it would make sense to take those rocks, or not rocks, property on, just to back up what the treasurer is saying. But if we take on rocks in the St. Lawrence, somebody hits them, we then become liable because it's our property and it's not marked. So I wouldn't say that is in the best interest of the municipality. Yeah. Follow up, Councillor, maybe, and then I'll go to Deputy Mayor Lackey.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. 2 of the properties seem to be of a little bit of size or have some volume to them, and they are under some people's name, or a person owns them. And I guess I'm getting to the point where, you know, why can't we, or why are they not paying the taxes on them when they have adjacent property, perhaps maybe a little ways away? But I'm just wondering, is there some way? Like, obviously we haven't collected taxes, and I get that part, but to not have to do this every 2-3 years, is there a way to make that happen?
Madam Treasurer.
Your worship, there's really no other means that we would have any authority to try to collect the taxes. This is usually the best leverage we have, is to put the property for tax sale. One of the properties on the list was actually eliminated. The roll number was actually eliminated, I think, because the property has been sitting and because it's a rock that's possibly now covered by water. I'm not sure. So we will continue to work with MPAC, and I think for some of these properties, hopefully eventually, if there's no value to them, then MPAC basically, I guess at some point might eliminate them. Other than that, we will have to levy the taxes on them and then come back to council every few years to write them off just for housekeeping, because if there's no way to collect, then it's just an accounting exercise at this point.
Deputy Mayor Lackey.
Yes, through you, Your Worship. Thousand Islands Association has come to me. They own, for whatever reason, years ago, they acquired a lot of these rocks, shoals, and they also cannot afford to pay the taxes, because obviously we're not paying our dues. So I'm wondering if there isn't more to come. If somebody could reach out to the TIA to see how they sit, that would be fantastic, because as you say, a lot of them are underwater. So, you know, they're paying taxes on things they can't use.
Perhaps, Ms. Tyndall, if you could make a note to potentially further discuss what TIA might be able to do with MPAC, because these are unusable properties, and then further alleviate, because I guess the bottom line is that group is actually trying to do good by marking those shoals and those rocks that are out in the middle of waterways, and to pay tax on them to have no other benefit to cost them money doesn't make sense, but perhaps we can direct them in the right direction with MPAC.
Okay, I'll look into it.
Wonderful. Any further questions or concerns in regards to the staff reports other than finance report SR-00521, the municipal budget? Seeing none, I'll call the question on the motion. All those in favor of accepting the reports, please signify. All those opposed, and it's carried. Okay. Next is the information items. Now, there were some information items that were requested, to be pulled. So, Madam Clerk, how do you want me to do this? Which motion should I be working with? The first
So
one?
we just ask if anyone has any information items to extract for further discussion and potential endorsement.
Okay, so do we have any of these information items you would like to discuss? Councillor Fody?
Thank you, Your Worship. Through you, I guess I am already unmuted. I would like to talk about the municipality of Southwest Middlesex with regards to CN drainage.
Okay.
Town of Prescott community funding for community groups.
Okay.
And insurance brought up by the municipality of Charlton and Dak.
Madam Clerk, were we going to discuss this later on in the meeting, the insurance piece? Or is that this part of this discussion?
No, it is part of this discussion. I think either the CAO or the Director of Finance have some insight when we get to that item.
Okay, so before we put the motion on the table, perhaps I'll have the CAO speak to that, or should I put the motion on the table first? Which do you prefer?
If there's no other information items that need to be pulled, I think Councillor Maybe may have one.
Yep, go ahead, Councillor Maybe.
Thank you, Your Worship. Through you, I was the operations information report, please.
Oh, okay. So operations report. And any other reports or any other information items that you'd like to discuss? Before we put the motion on the floor, the CAO, do you want to speak to the insurance rates information item before we put it on the table for further discussion?
Thank you, Your Worship, and through you. We'd like to just postpone the discussion on this particular resolution of support, simply because we want to do a little more digging into what's behind it. The Association of Municipalities 7 recommendations that they have with regard to the insurance, I think makes sense, and we're supportive of that as far as the staff goes. There's a curious reference in following in their resolution of the township that makes reference to investigating unethical practice of preferred vendors who are paid substantial amounts over industry standards, which we don't understand or have any information on. So rather than have council consider this and potentially support this, we'd like to just understand what is that township talking about with the unethical practices and preferred vendors. Who are they referring to, and what is this about? So
that's to be brought back at a later meeting. CAO?
That's
okay.
Correct. We'd like to talk about this with council for sure, either at February or March, depending on how we get, if we get a response back. But notwithstanding the AMO recommendations on insurance premiums and the joint and several liability is pretty topical, as we've been advised by our insurer that our premiums are going up almost 20% again this year. They went up 19.8 last year, I believe. So this really is making insurance, pricing it out of sight and taking money away that could be used for delivery of services to businesses and residents, and paying for insurance costs. So anyway, we want to just take another closer look at this and bring it back for discussion.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, can you ensure that that's on an action list to make sure that it does come back? Not that I don't trust anybody, sometimes it gets forward. Councillor Jameson, would you like anything pulled for discussion?
If I may just speak in support of the CAO's recommendation, that letter made me jump, and I had the opportunity to read the AMO paper, advocacy paper on this, which was released in October 2019. I'm sure with all the other things going on, most of us didn't see it, but I'd just like to say that it's 18 pages of scary information about the way this is going. So I appreciate the CAO's counsel to take it off the table for now so that we could really take a look at this at a staff level. If anybody like me to send them along the AMO brief, I'd be happy to do so. It's just gripping. I'm sure you'll enjoy every word of it, but I certainly support the CAO's point of view. Thank you.
Thank you. So as of right now, the motion that will be put on the floor is that the information items be received and filed with the exception of Municipality of Southwest Middlesex resolution support request for CN rail drainage, Town of Prescott resolution support request for community group funding, and operations report SR-008-21. Are there any other information items to be pulled and discussed? See, I need a mover and a seconder for that motion. Councillor Fody, and a seconder. Councillor Olkey, thank you. Okay, discussion on the motion, and then we'll deal with the other ones separately. Seeing no discussion, I'll ask for all those in favor of the motion at hand, they signify. All opposed, and it's carried. So now we will deal with the ones that we have pulled. So I have the two ready to go. The last one would be the operations report, which I will need. So, okay. So the resolution coming forward. Sorry, go ahead.
To interrupt you. If we just take it item by item, if there is an appetite to endorse, that's when we can put that motion on the table.
Oh.
We discuss it first. Yep.
Oh, so then I shouldn't have called the question.
It's okay, because if we want to endorse it, we need a mover and a seconder for the resolutions anyway, but first we do the list. So the first one's the operations report.
Trying to do this a little differently, so not 100% sure on the protocol anymore. Anyway, so the first one is the Township of Middlesex, Southwest Middlesex, in regards to municipal CN drainage. Councillor Fody, you were the one who had expressed some concerns and wanted to have that discussed. So perhaps you can give us a Coles Notes version of why you'd like to see this be endorsed.
Thank you, Your Worship. I think your Coles Notes version is in the hands of each and every one of you. I think it's very appropriate and applicable to our township, and we've been on the negative receiving end of this very topic right here in our own village, from what I understand. So when I saw this come through from Southwest Middlesex, I thought it was only appropriate that we in particular should endorse this resolution that they put forward.
So you would like to make that motion to endorse?
I will.
Councillor Fody? Okay. Do we have a seconder to endorse this? Councillor Deputy Mayor Lackey. Okay. And the motion reads, be it resolved that the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Leeds and the Thousand Islands hereby endorses the resolution received by the Municipality of Southwest Middlesex regarding the lobbying of the Province of Ontario to work with the Federal Minister of Transportation to address concerns about municipal drainage matters and the need for coordination with the national railways, and that the resolution be circulated to the Provincial Ministers of Agriculture, Food and Rural Affairs, Municipal Affairs and Housing, and the Federal Minister of Transportation, the local MP, and the MPP, and the Association of Municipalities of Ontario, and all municipalities. Any further discussion on supporting of this motion? I think it's fairly self-explanatory that municipal drainage is a paramount issue for most rural municipalities. And if the railway isn't part of it, then it makes for bigger challenges down the road. Deputy Mayor Lackey?
Yes, thank you, through you, your worship. When they put the third line in, they kind of, I think they messed things up in our area, and it'd be nice to get some of that straightened away.
Fair enough. Any further discussion on the motion at hand? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor of supporting this resolution? All those opposed? And the motion is carried. Thank you very much. So the next information item to come forward is the Town of Prescott resolution support for the funding for community groups, charities, and service clubs. And Councillor Fody, you too had brought that to our attention.
Thank you, Your Worship. Like the previous resolution, this speaks loud to most every municipality, I suspect. Ours is no different. Our community groups are suffering like everyone else's are. Case in point, the last day or two, I see funding has come through for the regional legions. I suspect that's across the province, and that's tremendous news. If we could see something similar come through for community groups, then that'd be great, because we know ourselves, we've already passed a budget where we've negated some of the money, if not a lot of the money, to our community groups because it isn't there. So if we could find it in, or if the province, I should say, could find it in a manner that they could put some monies forward, it would be greatly appreciated. And that's the gist of my thoughts behind supporting Prescott's resolution.
So you would like to move that, Councillor Fody?
That we support and endorse the resolution that Town of Prescott has put forward.
So the motion, if we were to, I'll put it on the floor. Is there a seconder to this motion? Councillor Oakey? Okay. Okay, so the resolution is, be it resolved that the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Leeds and the Thousand Islands hereby endorses a resolution received from the Town of Prescott regarding the request for confirmation from the governments of Ontario and Canada that funding will be available for local small charities, community groups, and service clubs, and that the copy of this resolution be sent to the Right Honourable Prime Minister of Canada, the Honourable Premier of Ontario, MP Michael Barrett, Leeds, Grenville, Thousand Island, Rideau Lakes, MPP Steve Clark, Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing, and the Association of Municipalities of Ontario, AMO, Rural Ontario Municipalities Association, ROMA, and the municipalities within Leeds and Grenville. Any discussion on the support for this motion? Councillor Oakey?
Thank you, Your Worship, and through you, I had raised with the treasurer that on Friday, January the 15th, I noted in the WIG Standard that there was literally millions of dollars going out the door from the gas tax revenue. And a lot of it went to Loyalist Township. They got $186,000, part of 1.33 million being shared by 5 municipalities in Hastings and Lennox and Addington counties. We don't seem to have received any of it. Surprising, and this sort of money would go to what Councillor Fody was suggesting. I wonder, I did raise it with Ms. Tyndall. I don't know if she has anything more to add to that. I just thought I'd draw people's attention to it. And perhaps there's a way we could be a little more aggressive in going after this money.
Ms. Tyndall, you want to speak to that, please?
Yeah, through you, Your Worship. Yeah, so that money that was announced was federal gas tax funding for transit, which Loyalist Township does have some transit service in Amherst. So that's what that money relates to. We obviously aren't eligible for, unfortunately, any transit funding.
Oh, sorry, you were muted there, Councillor Oakey, so we didn't get your last commentary.
My apologies, Your Worship. Really, it was only a gesture.
Oh, okay. Councillor or Ms. Goodman, would you like to speak to this?
Certainly. Thank you, Your Worship. And through you, I would like to bring to Council's attention some of the work I do here is I represent recreational opportunities on a more regional level as chair of the Rural Recreation Association, or co-chair of the Rural Recreation Association. And this past August, I was fortunate to have time with a designate from the Ministry of Culture, Tourism, Recreation and Sport. And we actually spoke to this exact thing, that our not-for-profit organizations and small sport providers and so on and so forth will be struggling as a result of reduced opportunities for play, for community engagement and hosting and facilitating those community events, and that kind of support would be required. Additionally, just for council's awareness, and as I'm sure you're aware in our weekly reports, that we do really try to communicate grant opportunities with our local not-for-profit organizations and facilitate those grant applications as and where possible. Thank you.
Any further discussion on the support for this resolution of Council of Prescott, Town of Prescott? Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of support, please signify. All those opposed, and the motion is carried. Thank you. And next is the operations report. So Councillor Mabey, you operations report SR 008-21. If you'd like to speak to that before we put a motion on the floor.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor, and to David, our operations director, I have a few questions. Number one, the intersection lights that the county has put up, they solely look after, provide funding, pay for the electricity that they actually use. That's number one. And the other one that kind of goes along with that, the intersections that are still dark, and we talked about this at our last meeting, the real stipulation that they don't want to do it is because they don't see the traffic load being heavy enough to require it. But do we have an appetite to put them in ourselves also and maintain them and look after the cost? Next, have to read my notes, sorry. Paved shoulders, you alluded to that in some of the road work that the county is actually doing. Has this become a standard policy that all roads that are being revamped get the shoulder or bike path, as some like to call it, throughout the community to help mediate the bicycle traffic and being pushed over by the cars and trucks and so on that are moving by? My next question was, with the Lyndhurst Bridge, you talked about a type of delineation. Just wondering what the county had in mind for that. Obviously, they're talking about something removable also, so that the winter plowing can happen properly. So I'm just wondering what that might look like in their mind so that we have an idea. And of course, the last thing I had on here was just what Councillor Fody brought forward in the letter of support about the train and their mediation of water within the property line of their tracks and how it's not moving forward as much as we would like it to see. Thank you.
Mr. Holliday, once you're done writing there, all the questions, if you could address.
Glad I started writing early.
Yeah.
Not a problem.
That's why I talked a little longer.
I appreciate that. Thank you. You bought me some time. So your first question was about the appetite from the county, or no, sorry, your first question was the county when they put up lights at the intersections. That depends on the intersection itself, where they would meet the provincial highway. Then there'd have to be endorsement from the provincial highway, and then it'd be based on the warrant with provincial highway at that point. If they say no, then the county would have to pay for it themselves if they decide to proceed. Where a county road meets a county road, if they see the warrant, then they pay for the whole cost. So if the county puts up a light at a county intersection, then it's fully their cost. They fund it through their electrical bill. In terms of the dark intersections, at the last meeting we discussed this as well, and we're going to get more information. I'm going to reach out to the detachment commander and have a chat with the fire chief before he's gone. And I think I committed to coming back to you guys in February with that. So that's something I will be following up with.
Yep. Thank you.
The Lyndhurst Bridge, It's just an idea that we had while we were in conversation. I know that Kim Goodman had worked on a design for a pedestrian bridge, and just the thought of being able to utilize the existing infrastructure that's there would be more cost effective. So as I was talking with Melanie from the counties of Leeds and Grenville, she pointed out to me that the platform of the bridge is already in excess of what's required for a single lane bridge. So we can utilize that existing platform for a multi-use path or pedestrian crossing. What we envision for that is something that would be in just for the summer, for the peak seasons. It would be like those curbs that you put in parking lots, or some sort of small barrier between the cars and the pedestrians, and then some sort of delineation signs or chevrons that would delineate that pedestrian path. So that,
yeah,
Follow-up.
just as a follow-up,
Yep.
you're not thinking of anything like a Jersey barrier, anything that high to protect a vehicle from jumping it and into the pedestrian walkway, are you?
No, it would be something lower. And the reason for that is we do have a significant amount of heavy traffic that travels over that bridge. So we have to consider wider loads. They have to be able to still maneuver that bridge in the summertime as well. So it was something that would be low scale, but still delineate that walking path from the driving portion of the bridge.
Right. Okay. And the other one was the paved shoulders.
And that is, I'll answer that, Mr. Holliday. That is a policy now at the county table, that any future
excellent
remediation on any roads that are county based will have paved shoulders.
Excellent. Thank you.
You're welcome. Was there anything else on the list, Mr. Holliday?
Nope, that was it. That was it. That was the whole list.
Okay.
Yep.
Councillor Gorell?
Actually, I'd like to hear from Councillor Jameson, had his hand up earlier.
Oh, I apologize.
Just like to hear what he might say if it's concerning Lyndhurst Bridge, because that's what I'd like to talk about. Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Jameson, I'm sorry, I did not see you in the far right-hand corner of my screen.
Well, at least I'm on the right of the mayor. Your worship, first of all, I really appreciate this report because I'm seeing some conversations going on that I personally have waited for much longer than I've been on council. So I appreciate that the dialogue is positive and constructed. So I thank the operations director. With respect to the lights in Sealy's Bay, the confusion sometimes comes from the fact that Main Street is a county road, even though a lot of us live up here think it's a township road. But the lighting itself, I hope that we can press to do something at those two intersections, because time and time again, it's raised with me and by a lot of people, that particularly in the dark of winter and inclement weather, it's just disappears when you fly by it. So that's first thing. The second thing is I'm very pleased to see that there's a shift in the thinking around the Lyndhurst Bridge. The notion that we were going to build a pedestrian bridge, in my view, would have meant we would have an additional pedestrian bridge, would have meant that this discussion would go on for a decade or more, because the consensus does not exist among the various people in the village about how this should be treated. I would encourage, as you're discussing this with the county, your worship, that we consider the pedestrian crossing aspect with yielding to pedestrians on the bridge, if that seems practical. I understand that it's a wide enough bridge to do something, but as the operations director mentioned, the big truck traffic, it gets a lot of that. And to me, the issue of yielding to pedestrians on the bridge might be something that you would consider, particularly in season, in the discussions with the county. And that's all I have to say, other than, once again, I really appreciate that you could see the progress in the communications. Thank you.
Councillor Gorell, did that speak to anything or change your thought process about any of this?
It certainly does. Again, the Lyndhurst Bridge, it strikes me as a very, it's complicated. I appreciate that. When I came on council, I saw a study, I believe, I don't know what it was actually called, and it was dealing with an additional bridge. And I do appreciate that the citizens of Lyndhurst are conflicted about the look of things. But personally speaking, I think I would prefer if we were a little more forceful with both county and whomever else about really dealing with it. That bridge isn't that big, and one might say it meets the standard of a single lane bridge, but gosh, walking on that with a truck going by would not make me thrilled in the peak season. It seems like a really stopgap measure at best, and I would hope that, I know it's big bucks, I would hope that the county, how long can we have a single lane bridge with poor access for foot traffic in that village? It just seems so old-fashioned to me. We need to get that fixed up, and we need to keep dealing with that. We really do. That's to say we're going to put in a meter or something for pedestrians. That's pretty weak. On a rainy day, the odd mud puddle, whatever. It just strikes me as really a weak proposition. So thank you, and I hope that we continue to push a little harder on that one. Thank you very much.
Are there any further questions or comments in regards to the operations report? Any actions we'd like to see taken? I think that Mr. Holliday will be working alongside of the county more closely than perhaps we have in the past, and we'll be looking for ways to find efficiencies and really get the most out of our county roads and county infrastructure here. So I appreciate your attention to that detail. Not to mention that the commitment from CN, I will be holding them to that in 2021 to make sure that these crossings are dealt with, because we've been dealing with them since we've got on council in 2018. So they are paramount, that need to be addressed. And I appreciate that county is helping us, but we cannot let them fall off the radar anymore. So seeing there's nothing else going forward with those things, Madam Clerk, do I move on to the next one for the municipal budget? I just want to make sure that I haven't missed anything.
I think the next item is it unfinished business? Unfinished business first.
Sorry, I apologize.
Unfinished business?
Oh, phooey. Unfinished business, I apologize. Ministry of Transportation letter of response request for the flashing light. So, do I have a motion here? I've got too many piles now. So the unfinished business in regards to the request for a flashing light, we had received a response from the minister's office in regards to the flashing light that we had requested at the off-ramp for the westbound lanes of the 401 at County Road 2 and the Thousand Islands RV Center. It's probably the easiest way to identify it. And so the question, I guess, was left, do we want to continue to push back on that? Because the answer was that their data did not support putting a flashing light in at that point in time. So I'll take input in regards to that. Councillor Maybe.
Thank you, Worshipman, through you. I'm not sure where they're getting their stats from, or whether they've got everything from history, but there are numerous accidents that have happened there. They even moved the rampway in its whole location to try to mitigate it, and it still hasn't done the job. Even last year, there was an accident there that we're all aware of, which again just pointed it out that this has not gone away. And I know the fire chief has been on that site many times. I had a family when I was running for the seat talk to me about somebody who was seriously injured and still is not a functioning person to what their standard of life would be. And their injuries were due to somebody coming through that stop sign and hitting them on a motorcycle. So, and then there's also the accident that went over the opposite bank. Family, drove straight through it and off the other side. So I'm not sure where Transport Canada or MTO is getting their information that this isn't a dangerous intersection. So I'd like to see whatever we can do to push this thing forward again. I don't know what our format or what platform we have, but there's got to be something more that we can push harder on this, because I don't want to see one more incident there. And somebody said, is it going to take a death? I hope not, because that's way past the point of being where we should be. If we can mitigate that from happening, we need to make it happen. So please, if there's any way that we can push this forward and get another audience and try to make this a safe intersection, we need to do it. Thank you.
Chief, would we be able to get stats in regards to calls for service at that intersection from your department easily, or is that a go back and look through the history books, so to speak?
Can you hear me there?
Yeah.
We probably do have incident reports that date back at least 60 years that we could pull data from. Through the crisis system, we've only been in it for the past 4. Possibly we can pull the data right off it. There has been a rash of fender benders there in previous history. There was some serious accidents, and as Councillor maybe alluded to, there was some very serious injuries. Fire started there that destroyed the hydro pole on the fire side of the intersection in Schur's Pond over the bank. But we do have several incidents on report that we could draw out of.
Okay, so Councillor, maybe perhaps you would like to make a motion that that we write back to the minister's office, providing them with a detailed account for the last, let's say, 10 years. Because the 4 years is easy to collect. The other 6 might take us a little bit of time, but provide 10 years history of that intersection to back up our argument that they need to revisit that. Is that what you would like?
Yes, please. That would be wonderful.
That TLTI provide a response to the minister's letter regarding flashing light on Highway 2 at westbound 401 off-ramp.
Yes.
Westbound 401 off-ramp east of the gates of Gananoque, east of Gananoque. I just want to make sure it's done correctly. To provide a response to the minister regarding with factual data from fire services supporting.
Will police services also have other reports?
Be the same reporting, I believe, because it's in the same system now. Supporting revisiting this issue.
Your Worship, for easy explanation, it's the only off-ramp we have involving 401 and Highway 2.
Thank you. In our township, that's right. I was like, yeah, okay. I'll deal with Councillor Jameson, and then do you want to second that motion, Councillor Jameson?
Your Worship, sure. You want to deal with me now? That's great. I'd be happy to second the motion. But I just wanted to say, did I hear that you were going to request the OPP stats as well?
So the data, factual data from fire service and OPP
Yeah,
supporting revisiting this issue.
thank you.
Okay.
Makes sense to me, yeah.
Okay. So the motion reads, and it's moved by Councillor Maybe and seconded by Councillor Jameson, that TLTI provide a response to the minister's letter regarding flashing light on Highway 2 at westbound 401 off-ramp east of Gananoque Way with factual data from fire service and OPP supporting revisiting this issue. Any further discussion on that motion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor, please signify. All those opposed? Motion is carried unanimously. Thank you. Okay, now I know why I have blank motions paper on my desk. Okay, and now I have to go back to my agenda. So I'm scrolling. So the action items that are required here. So the motion that's coming forward in regards to the municipal 2021 municipal operating budget and capital budget. I'm going to read the motion and then I'll be asking for a mover and a seconder. That council approve the 2021 municipal gross operating budget in the amount of $13,799,620 with a levy requirement of $10,447,440 and a property tax rate of 0.00447958. And that council approve the freezing of council, management, supervisory, and non-union wages for the 2021 year as a one-time exception to resolution number 344-15 and other human resource policies and practices due to COVID-19. And that council approve the building department budget in the amount of $383,500 to be self-funded, and that council approve the 2021 municipal capital budget in the amount of $2,031,000, and that council defer library board proposed budget of up to an amount of $450,100 until such time council can be provided with sufficient detailed budget information to facilitate budget approval, and that should council decide to lower the levy request based on a reduced approved library budget, the remaining funds will be transferred to a capital reserve fund. And that's the end of the motion. So can I have a mover and a seconder, please, for discussion? Councillor Jameson. Seconder on that motion. Councillor Olkey. Okay. So discussion on the motion. Go ahead, Councillor Maybe. Oh, sorry. Before you get going, just two caveats. This week, I believe it was pushed out to all of council. If you haven't seen it yet, the school board budget is staying flat. I believe, Ms. Tyndall, we got that notification late last week before the packages went out, or after the packages went out. Okay. And I had a county budget today, this morning. It is very clear to me that the majority of our county council, although no decisions have been made at this point in time, will not be accepting a 1.5% increase at county. So the good news is that we will not likely see the overall tax rate increase if as much as what we would anticipate based on a 1.5% increase. It would be lower, but that does not preclude the discussion that we might have here in regards to the specifics, but I felt that you needed to have that data before we go any further. Go ahead, Councillor Maybe.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and through you, that was precisely my question. And I did see the email about the education being flatlined, basically 0%. And of course the county, and I knew that you were going to be in discussions about that. Is there any appetite that it's actually going to be passed at a lower rate, or is it? Yeah, okay, so it is better.
So just for brevity, when we met for joint services last week, it was indicated that all the separated municipalities and many of the member municipalities for county were not in favor of the increased budget at the joint services, which is a separate budget that feeds into the larger county budget. And so I have a feeling we'll be seeing cuts to that joint services budget first and foremost. But secondly, today's discussion, there was lots of discussion about the fact that you know, what is the increase needed for? We have seen increase in assessment value throughout the county, which it therefore increases the budget anyways because of natural building and assessment that's coming online. We don't see any of the phase-in increases, and usually county doesn't have to increase their budget because the phase-in increases their budget naturally. But because the phase-in was supposed to happen last year and then didn't, and as of right now we aren't being notified of when that might change, it's flat. There's no phase-in, but there's increase due to building and just general revenue from that point of view. The other interesting piece is that their asset management plan and how they're attacking it, they budget things very differently at county than we do. They use amortization versus multi-year planning. It's kind of, in my opinion, antiquated, and I think the opinion of a number of other mayors around that table. But it was loud and clear. I didn't have to speak up. I would say there was at least 5 other mayors other than myself who were very clear that they would not be supporting a 1.5% increase at county. I said my piece in camera about some other details that obviously I can't discuss at this table, but I have concerns about overall management, and there's some very large projects happening at the county level, namely County Road 43 in the municipality of North Grenville, as well as the expansion of Mapleview Lodge. So it's important that we keep our eye on every dollar. And it seems that that is the appetite of all the other mayors as well.
Oh, thank you, Madam Mayor, for being instrumental in trying to move this forward and get us a better rate. And in saying that, I am cognitive of we have a business to run here. Costs do go up, and the staff have done very well in minimizing any increase to their budgets, and that most of this tax increase is basically for our reserve funds to help them help us get through a future. So it is good. As much as I would love to see a solid number on the county, I have to admit that, just so that, again, as I said last week, it's that blank check kind of feeling. But I know that we're very close. So the county is going to come in at 1% possibly. Is that more of a realistic goal?
I would say it would be 1% or less. The other thing to keep in mind that maybe help assuage your feeling about this is that right now I believe the overall increase, including our increase to our budget of 6%, puts the overall increase to our taxpayer at 3.3, correct, Madam Treasurer?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, so even with our increase to our budget due to the loss of the casino revenues and having to fund our own reserves, more so, 3.3, it will not be, unless something totally blows up the county budget, which I can't imagine, it won't, the overall increase will be less than 3.3. So in light of these times, 3.3 is certainly not a dramatic increase to the overall budget of the households in TLTI, when it could be much worse. So.
And thank you, Madam Mayor. And the only other thing I'd like to say there is that if there's any resident who is having difficulty, it's been alluded to that there is a funding or different avenues that they might be able to help with. And I would certainly hope that they are able to take part in those programs if they are available. And also that the ones who are having difficulty and may not be available to those particular programs, that they may be able to come back to us and see if there's some sort of extra help that we might be able to acquire for them to ensure that they're not having a hardship through this COVID-19 time, because it is a little bit different for some families who aren't working or are having difficulty making ends meet now. So just be cognitive of those hardships and that they are real. There are a lot of people who are doing well and are still working, but there are some families who are struggling it is real for them. So thank you very much.
Any further comments or questions in regards to the budget or the motion at hand in regards to the budget, the 2021 budget? Councillor Olkey.
Thank you, Your Worship. And in regards to the very thin ice of the library discussions, I'll just slide myself out on that ice again. Reading the Library Act, it's silent on reserves. And in the paragraph that deals with the library budget, we talk about putting money to capital reserves. We are not obligated to put that money in any kind of reserve that has the word library on it. And my reading of the Municipal Act says that we can move money between reserves. So that seems to set off a lot of alarm bells. I just wonder if there's some way to put more clarity on that.
Madam Treasurer.
Through your worship, sorry if that was a bit confusing. The intent of that was it would go to a municipal capital replacement reserve fund. So it would basically go to our roads or facilities reserve fund, nothing to do with the library.
Councillor Olkey, does that answer your question?
Yes, and to follow up, both Councillor Jameson and I have been rather harsh with some people in the library about the existing so-called reserve funds that they have, being very cognizant that the library has no responsibility for managing investments and no responsibility for capital. Understanding they do need some kind of reserve as a float in case of some kind of disaster. But they have of the order of $214,000 squirreled away in bank accounts, where it's just eroding because bank interest is much less than inflation even today. So some of that money could obviously be recovered and used for other purposes, since we're looking at every dollar. Thank you.
Councillor Jameson.
Okay, technology beats me again. Just like to speak in support of what Councillor Olkey is saying, but add that to the extent that in the last week or two, we're seeing quite a dramatic change in how we can relate to one another with respect to the library and our staff and so on and so forth. And I'm very optimistic now that some of these concerns that have built up over some years can be dealt with in a calm, measured way. And I have a lot of optimism as to how we'll end up at the end of both our strategic planning exercises with that involve the library. So while I know we've got a history to sort out, I think the openness to the need to change is very strong. And I support the moves going forward, including this motion as it stands. Thank you.
Any further discussion on the motion? Seeing none, I will call the question. All those in favor of approving the motion as read? All those in favor? All those opposed? One opposed, and the motion is carried. Thank you, gentlemen. We get to move forward in 2021. Thank you. Okay, sorry, I just need to go back to my agenda, which has gone dark on me. Okay, and so the next motion on the floor will be that council approve the zoning bylaw amendment attached to this report as Exhibit E to rezone the subject property from recreation commercial CR to shoreline residential. Can I have a mover and a seconder for that motion, please? This is in regards to what we just had for public meeting, I believe. So Deputy Mayor Lackey and then Councillor Mabey. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor, please signify. All those opposed, and it carries. Okay. Next motion that's on the floor, it's in regards to SR-01021 zoning bylaw amendment for 41 Hill Island Heights, and that the motion is that council approve the zoning bylaw amendment attached to this report as Exhibit E to rezone the subject property from island residential to island residential exception 32 RI-32. Any discussion, oh, sorry, mover and seconder. Councillor Fody and Deputy Mayor Lackey. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor, please signify. All those opposed? And it carries. Next is SR-011-21 Planning Report Zoning Bylaw Amendment Application Number Z 2021-003-824 Clon Lane. And the motion is that council approve the zoning bylaw amendment attached to this report as Exhibit G to rezone a portion of the subject property from the floodplain FP to shoreline residential RS. Mover and a seconder for the motion, please. Councillor Olkey and then Councillor Maybe is the seconder. Any discussion on this motion? This is the 824 Clon Lane. Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor, please signify. All those opposed, and we're carried. Thank you. And next motion that's on the floor is a little bit out of the, well, not out of the ordinary. It only comes around once every 4 years. So the motion is that, oh.
Madam Mayor, yeah.
Oh, I missed one, Sand Bay Road. I apologize. Thank you. So the next motion is in regards to SR-012-21 zoning bylaw amendment application Z 2021-005-156 Sand Bay Road. And the motion is that council approve the zoning bylaw amendment attached to this report as Exhibit E to rezone the subject property from agriculture AG to the agriculture special exception 12 AG 12 zone to prohibit residential use of the property. I need a mover and a seconder. Councillor Fody and Councillor Olkey. And any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor, please signify. All those opposed, and the motion is carried. Next is the one that we would only see maybe once every 4 years, and it's a resolution to be it resolved that the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Leeds and the Thousand Islands supports the 2021 census, and it encourages all residents to complete their census questionnaire online at www.census.gc.ca. Mover and a seconder to this. Deputy Mayor Lackey and then Councillor Fody. I just wanted to say this came through from the government asking for our councils to underscore it to make sure that everybody goes and participates in the census that has the ability to. And if they can do it via online means, that is the preferred manner and the quickest manner. Having said that, they are looking for people to work for the census as well, because they still will be doing the old-fashioned way, the door-to-door. So if you're looking for part-time work, that is also located on the website if you go to census.gc.ca. Any other comments or questions in regards to the motion at hand? Seeing none, we'll call the question. All those in favor, please signify. And all those opposed. And we're carried. Okay, mayor's update. So I had quite a lengthy update last week at Committee of the Whole, and I have been sending out sort of updates to the council members on a regular, semi-regular basis to let them know what I'm up to and where I'm going and the meetings that I'm at, because I used to be able to have these conversations in person when we used to gather around the table and let everybody know where I've been and what I'm up to. But now it seems to be best done through email as we can't meet in person. So this particular month, excuse me, this particular week actually is my busiest week this month, but it's been fairly busy all along. I have a Rotary meeting that I'm speaking at tomorrow at noon via Zoom. And then we have an economic development meeting tomorrow. We have postponed our peer meeting to a later date, which would have been tomorrow or Wednesday morning, I should say. And then Thursday, we have pretty much an all-day county council meeting on Thursday. And we're hopefully going to get through regular council meeting as well as the rest of the budget. We only got through part of county budget today. We did not get to capital. So I have a feeling that Thursday will be an extra long day. I also have Mapleview Lodge that I now sit on the committee for council. I have that on Friday. So this week is pretty jammed, that's for sure. And then next week is Roma. So I'm attending Roma virtually. The county sends all of county councilors to this conference, usually in person, but it is being done virtually, as AMO was done virtually in August. So I am looking forward to listening to some of the speakers at Roma. And if anybody is looking to join, we can socially distance and go into the other building if need be, or if I can find a way to get you a link, then I will. So I think that's mostly it. There's no state of emergency here in the Township of Leeds and the Thousand Islands. Is now might be. I'll recognize you, Councillor Corral, as soon as I'm finished. Thank you. And the clerk, I noticed as well. I'll make a note of that. When the province declared a state of emergency, it was asked if I was looking to do the same here in this municipality. I reached out to our senior management team here to ask for some specific details in regards to infections and where things are going here as per the health unit. I chose not to declare a state of emergency here at this time. And my main reason behind that, for everyone's reference, is that right now we're doing well here. I know that we had our small spike prior to Christmas, and grateful that all the members of those businesses that were affected are on the mend and in good shape and back in operation. But in the event that we were to be hit with something like that again, where another local business ended up having sort of it go through the community via wildfire, if that was maybe not the best way to describe it, but we know that the virus moves quickly. I wanted to have the ability to declare a state of emergency at that point in time, if we were ever faced with that, God forbid. My hope is that we continue to move forward in the way that we have been. People are staying home, staying safe, limiting their exposure, and only going out when necessary. So that is the reasoning. We are still, we did not declare a state of emergency here at TLTI. Madam Clerk, you had something you wanted to add, and then I'll recognize Councillor Garreau.
Yep, thank you, Madam Mayor. I just wanted to clarify that the EDC meeting's on Wednesday, not tomorrow, but that's all.
Sorry, thank you. I'm trying to move the week along, I guess. I apologize. So Wednesday. Councillor Garreau.
I was just wondering, are there any delegations on behalf of the county at Roma that have any particular interest in our township? Thank you.
Yes, there are 2 delegations, and just so that I get it correct, the 2 delegations, one is with the Ministry of Environment regarding communal services, and Doug Malenka, the mayor from North Augusta, is the lead on that. And then there is another delegation with the Attorney General in regards to POAs, provincial offenses, which would not be pertaining to us as a municipality. The communal services, I'll be honest, I don't know enough about that on my own, but I can get information to disseminate to all of you. And I'm happy to step up and be part of those delegations if need be. And that's both, they're both on Monday, January 25th. First one is at 9:40 in the morning, and the second one is at 3:20 in the afternoon. So, and they're all being held virtually, obviously. So, any further comments or questions or anything that I've left out in my mayor's update? Okay, seeing none, I'll move on to number 9 on the agenda, notice of motion. So the notice of motion is, whereas the council believes in the importance of having a viable library service available to the township residents, and whereas the fiscal challenges affecting taxpayers in the pandemic and beyond require all municipalities to reevaluate spending capacity and priorities, and whereas the asset management plan development process is providing and will provide council with a clearer picture of the long-term operational and capital expenditures that will be required to fulfill resident expectations, and whereas council will consider all aspects of township activity through its forthcoming strategic planning exercise, and whereas the above stated challenges and expectations also present an opportunity to engage with other area municipalities to review current and to consider a variety of new joint service initiatives. Now, therefore, be it resolved, council directs staff to review the library founding bylaw and then explore options with other area municipalities for library service, joint service partnerships such as union boards and or comparable, and report these findings to council as the schedule permits through the strategic planning process. So I'm assuming Councillor Jameson, you want to put that motion forward, and I need a seconder for that motion. Somebody want, Deputy Mayor Lackey. Okay, discussion on the motion, please, gentlemen. I'll recognize Councillor Oakey.
Thank you, Your Worship, and through you, or by you, I'm going to edge out onto the thin ice again. I'd like to propose an amendment to this motion. We're edging towards telling the library how to do their business in this. It sounds very operationally focused. I think most of it's fine, but we could balance that out. And what I propose as an amended form is at the end of the third paragraph, let's tell people what those expectations might be. And I think adding the subclause to the end of the third paragraph, which would then read, that will be required to fulfill resident expectations about distributed library services in Lansdowne, Lyndhurst, and Sealy's Bay. And if we made that amendment, I'd be happy with the whole motion.
Okay, so you're putting forward an amendment to the motion.
Yes.
Okay. Madam Clerk, did you get that scribbled down, or will he have to say that again?
I didn't. I need it to be clarified again, but we also need a seconder.
Yeah, okay, so is there anybody willing to second that amendment? Councillor Garrell? Okay. Okay, so the intent was on the third paragraph. What
after the existing last word and before the colon, the semicolon, add about distributed library services in Lansdowne, Lyndhurst, and Sealy's Bay, because that is where our citizens will have their expectations.
About distributing library services, sorry.
Distributed
services
library services
in
Lansdowne, Lyndhurst, and Sealy's Bay, semicolon.
Now, where are we putting that? I missed that part.
At the end of the third paragraph, the third whereas. So where council with a clearer picture of the long-term operational and capital expenditures that will be required to fulfill resident expectations about distributed library services in Lansdowne, Lyndhurst, and Sealy's Bay.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yep.
Okay, so that amendment is put forward by Councillor Olkey and seconded by Councillor Garrell. Any discussion on the amendment as presented? Councillor Jameson.
Yeah, I'm not fully understanding the intent because the amendment is coming respecting the library prior to the therefore. If I had not made it clear, it's just the reference to the library. Everything prior to the specific reference to the library has to do with everything we have to think about in terms of our strategic planning process. So the issue of looking at the library has to do mainly with, on the top line, or sort of the overarching is the residents' needs have to be thought of first in everything, whether it's roads or just about anything else, that we need to be open to all possibilities across all the work we're doing. So we need to accumulate as much information as we can. Joint services, my mention of joint services was not focused specifically on the library. It was just to put the ultimate resolution in the context of our larger, what I consider the larger pictures. So because I haven't had time to really analyze or understand, and I guess I'm asking your worship that Councillor Oakey explain, I didn't want to specifically reference library services in any particular community or any particular action, because that's the business of the library service. But the business of council is to ensure that when we invest in the library or roads or the fire service or whatever, where we have discretionary, not discretionary, we have decision making, is that we have looked at all the other possibilities around us, up to and including partnerships with municipalities, union boards, whatever it takes. That can include contracts for the fire service. So I didn't want to in any way narrow it other than to put the library discussion about long-term needs in the broader focus of council's strategic planning process. So we are going at the library, speaking as a library board member, I know we're going to go out in the marketplace and find out what the expectations are of our citizens for the library. That is on the books, and we're going to do that. But ultimately, the library will determine what services need to go to Lyndhurst, Sealy's Bay, and Lansdowne, of course. And who knows, maybe back to Escott if the constituents think that's a viable option for the library to consider. So on that basis, I'm not understanding why we need to address specifics within the library service. I think we just need to find out how much all this is going to cost and what our options are going down the road, which is why I want to find out what it all means. Thanks.
So we're discussing the amendment that's on the floor at this point in time. So Councillor Jameson, I'm assuming that you're against the motion or against the amendment?
No, I'm not against it. I'm sorry, Your Worship. I'm just not understanding why we need to get that specific inside, because we're trying to be as open as possible for change. That's all.
Okay, Councillor Oakey, you want to speak to that?
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. And by way of explanation, the school of staff work that I came up in meant that you don't introduce anything as a surprise. And so if we're going to come to a very sharp conclusion in this motion, we should give some detail about why we're coming to that sharp conclusion ahead of time. The detail about the library in the final paragraph becomes rather an emphasis as opposed to the discussion of it being a general motion. So it looks like kind of looks like a gang up, if you will, on a beat down. That was my impression of it, and I think you could modify it. You could modify the last paragraph too if you wanted to, but I think since we did spend so much time in the last paragraph talking about libraries, we should give some indication above that last paragraph why would we be doing that. And we know that we've had petitions and we've had discussions with many people about library services in the various villages and the level of them. So I think the amendment takes a surprise out of it, is really why I would put that in. The other way it could be approached, is remove any reference to the library in this motion. But there is a motion to amend the motion on the floor. Thank you.
Okay, so it's just to basically say that we're not looking necessarily to change the reason that you're looking for this is that so that people don't think that we're automatically taking library services out of places that already have library services. Is that the gist of what you're trying to do here, Councillor Oki?
I'm trying to put the, essentially, but I'm putting library services in the context of expectations that our public has. We're not telling the library how to satisfy them. We're trying to identify what they are, which would help fund things.
Excuse me. Okay. Anybody looking to speak for or against the amendment? Councillor Jameson. You just muted yourself. There you go.
Sorry. I have a better understanding of where Your Worship, Councillor Oki is going on this. I think, I won't oppose the amendment based on what I'm hearing him say. We clearly have to get to the bottom of a few things, but we also need friends. And those friends may be other library services looking with the same challenges we have, and keeping in mind that with the budget as skinny as it is, with our budget we just passed, with great accolades to the staff, library and everybody else has got to think about where we're going to go. So if I think I'm understanding what Councillor Oki is saying, and on that basis, I would support the amendment. Thank you.
Anybody speaking for or against the amendment? If not, I will call the question. I'll read it first. Whereas the council believes the importance of having a viable library service available to the township residents, and whereas the fiscal challenges affecting taxpayers in the pandemic and beyond require all municipalities to reevaluate spending capacity and priorities, and whereas the asset management plan development process is providing and will provide council with a clearer picture of the longer term operational and capital expenditures that will be required to fulfill the residents' expectations about distributed library services in Lansdowne, Lyndhurst, and Sealy's Bay. And whereas council will consider all aspects of the township's activity through its forthcoming strategic planning exercise. And whereas the above stated challenges and expectations also present an opportunity to engage with other area municipalities to review current and to consider a variety of new joint service initiatives. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the council directs staff to review the library founding bylaw and then explore options with other area municipalities for library service, joint service partnerships such as union boards or comparable, and report these findings to council as the schedule permits through the strategic planning process. My friends, you have the motion before you. All those in favor of the motion at hand, amended motion. All those opposed, and the motion is carried. Thank you very much. Okay, and now I gotta shrink this. All these wonderful technological pieces that help us communicate when we're no longer in each other's spaces. Anyways, Councilor Morelli, you have something to add? Go ahead.
Excuse me, did we just vote on that correctly? Just as a matter of case, do we not first vote on the amendment and then we vote on the main
Did
motion?
I not call the vote on the amendment? I did call the vote on the amendment, didn't I?
Well, then now do we vote on we have to vote on the main motion, do we not?
We just voted on the main motion.
So what Madam Mayor did was insert the amendment into the main motion and then you voted on it in its entirety. But yes, we should have voted on the amendment.
Oh, I apologize. I thought I had called the question on the amendment. I'm sorry. I did that. That's my fault.
I'll just go with whatever you say, clerk. I just want to make sure we did that procedurally correct, because there was an amendment and then there was still the main motion. So I didn't realize.
As long as everyone understands that the intent of the amended motion is to insert that into the third paragraph, and your vote doesn't change on that and you agree with it,
we're okay.
So therefore,
the
it precludes further conversation on the main motion by doing so. Is that correct?
Yes, because it brought it to position.
Okay, I still have a question on the main motion.
Oh, I apologize. I'll take the question, and then if we need to go back and amend the motion, we'll deal with that at the time. I apologize, Councilor Rowell. Thank you for calling me on that.
I heard amendment, and then I know there was a main motion. So anyway, here's my question. With regards to that council directs staff, is it possible that staff would then put a committee together, or do we have how are we going to go about that? Perhaps our CAO would have an idea, maybe it's too early. How does our staff go about that? When I remember hearing from the library board that they had said that they had investigated a joint board with, I think, Rideau Lakes, and at that time they weren't interested. So without stepping on toes here, is this a good idea to asking staff now to perhaps double up on what I thought I'd heard from the strategic plan and so on from the CAO of the library board? Thank you.
CAO, would you like to speak to that? And then I'll add my 2 cents at the end.
Certainly, for approach to the work, if council so directs, what we would probably do is have a small group of 1 or 2 directors and myself investigate possible service delivery methods and chat to various stakeholders and bring our recommendations back to council. So that's how the work would get done. But you raise a valid point with respect to, I remember the chair of the library board advising that the joint services was something that they had looked at. But perhaps just a fresh set of eyes and maybe a different approach, we may get some additional information.
Okay.
What I'll add to this discussion, which hasn't come to fruition, and I'll recognize you, Councillor Jameson, as soon as I'm finished here. One of the things that has been brought up at county with the modernization task force is the discussion about shared library services, what that looks like. Nothing's been formalized at county yet, but I don't believe it was the intent to have a county library, but to share resources better and work together more so than maybe what's happened in the past. Because of course, Rideau Lakes keeps getting brought up because they have an excellent library service. They're close to us. They used to provide, I think, one of the libraries was serviced by Rideau Lakes at one point years ago. Anyways, but the point that's being made at the county table is that there's lots of little libraries with CEOs and all these administrative and boards. So is there something we can look at to streamline and bring more capability to the smaller areas? Because we know that the library services are so important to all the far-reaching spots in the United Counties of Leeds and Grenville. So it was kind of nice to hear other municipalities that were looking to have a fresh set of eyes to look at things. So I think that will also feed into this as well.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Jameson.
Yes, Your Worship, I think one of the things we have to keep in mind is that we're responsible ultimately for the enabling legislation that brought the library into life. And so it has been some years since we've looked at it. And we are also at this stage responsible for funding it. So it's really just to ensure that every opportunity is on the table from a council perspective to ensure that the library service that we offer residents is the best it can be, and also, from my point of view, is efficiently managed in the context of the broader community. And I'm thinking the county community, where we have seen in jurisdictions in other areas where they've aligned library systems and been able to tap into a greater resource because they've worked together. So there's no intent to come to a conclusion other than to look at everything that's available to us going forward in a very, obviously a much more constrained fiscal environment than we've experienced in the past, or really understood. That's all the intent is.
Any further comment to Councillor Olkey, and then we'll move on from this discussion.
Thank you, Your Worship. And to reinforce what my colleague, Councillor Jameson, has said, I've been a member of the Kingston and Frontenac Public Library system for years and years. It's essentially a union board. It works very well. There's no reason something like that couldn't work in our county with our larger cities. I would say that I was approached by a journalist today about these various issues, and my response was that these things have been under discussion for some time. And then to revert back to Councillor Gurrell, the information you had was pre-COVID, and there was some local interest in rejecting the idea of union boards or anything because of somebody's private empire. I'll just leave it at that. And so things going forward, as Councillor Jameson, who's grinning like a Cheshire cat, has intimated, we'll probably see some fairly radical changes over time. Thank you.
Okay, so we'll go forward with announcements. That's the next thing on our agenda. Does anybody have announcements? Councillor Gurrell?
No, so back to the procedural
The amendment.
issues.
So we'd already voted.
Still covered. Are we still good that we actually voted on both an amendment and a main motion at the same time?
I believe so, because I don't think anybody's opinion changed after the discussion, the further discussion. And thank you for that. And this is the good thing. I have all these technological things in front of me between phones and computers and instant messages with the new motion that's been put in front of me. So it's hard to manage it all, I'm not gonna lie. But I appreciate you holding me accountable to that, because I don't want to get those things missed. I want to make sure that they're well intended, and I believe that they were in this particular case. So that saves us in some respects. So, but thank you. Announcements, number 10. Anybody for an announcement? Councillor Olkey, and then Councillor Jameson.
I'll preface, your worship, I'll preface my remarks about announcements. I'm making this to show that I do other things besides the library. On the 21st, I'm attending the Source Protection Working Group, which is a subcommittee of the Cataraqui Conservation Authority. And then the 27th, there is the Cataraqui Conservation Authority Annual General Meeting, which I will attend. Before I do either of those things, I would like to have a chance to speak with Mr. Holliday about certain issues, if that's okay.
I'm sure he will make time to have that conversation with you.
Thank you, David. Thank you, Your Worship.
Councillor Jameson, you had an announcement?
Two things. I just want to thank Bylaw and Planning and Works for attending to a few issues in both Sealy's Bay and Lyndhurst over the course of the last month. I won't elaborate on what those were, but I appreciate seeing resolutions, and just means my email is a little slower right now. Thank you. The other thing I want to say, and I was said before, but I just want to say how much I appreciate the effort that went into the budget preparation. We got our budget early. It was very tight, very skinny. Obviously, as several councillors have said, I appreciate the effort that was put into getting us where we are today. And you know, what can I say? We passed it, and I think we should congratulate ourselves on moving this forward in a very difficult environment. So I'm not taking full credit for this budget. I'm willing to share, but I'd like to congratulate everybody involved in getting us here. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Jameson. Any further announcements? Councillor maybe.
Thank you, Your Worship, and through you. As you all know, I look after a property that has a COVID testing site on it. And in the last week, the people going through that facility has minimized, which is a good thing for us. And the numbers in our area are down, which is a very good thing. And certainly the state of emergency that the province has put on us stops people from moving from the metropolitan areas to our area and spreading it. So I'm happy that that has happened, and staying safe and healthy and staying in your bubble is very important. And I'm happy that most people in our area are trying to do that. Just with what this week means to our friends in the South, I hope that they go through it safely and without much incident. And I bless them all since I have relatives there, I just hope that everything goes well for them all. Thank you.
Any other announcements, Councillor Foti? You had your hand up.
More of a question, Your Worship. Because I wasn't able to print out my actual agenda, is there a section here for new business still ahead?
Nothing on the agenda, but I would be willing to entertain something if it's pressing. And then we can bring it to another meeting if it needs further discussion.
Well, it's just a question more than anything, perhaps to our CAO. In 6 weeks' time, we're going to have a real void here with the retirement of our fire chief. What's the protocol moving forward? Are we going to establish a committee, or, I'm just curious.
CAO? I need you to unmute, my friend. There we go.
Thank you, Your Worship. Through you. Yes, we are going to be forming a committee. I want to talk internally amongst the team. I have some ideas about the leadership at the fire services department and where we should go, what we should be looking at. I think it would also be helpful if we have one or two councillors, if they have some time to sit with us as a kind of an informal working group to chat with the chief about ideas of where he sees things going, drawing upon his experience in the chair and his years of experience, as well as talk to the deputy chief, Mike Pryor, as what he sees, and so that we can formulate how we want to go ahead and what qualities we're looking for a candidate, and is the current situation, is that satisfactory for us, or with a part-time chief and a full-time deputy, or do we want to do something else? So there's a few issues that I want to talk to the leadership team about. Also want to draw upon, and I invite any councillors who have some ideas or who want to be part of the process to reach out to me. I'd be more than happy to talk and get your insights as well.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any further announcements? Before we go into the confirmatory bylaw, I'll just echo the comments of Councillor Jameson, but on a little bit of a different vein. I just appreciate the work that's gone into the constant pivoting that happens here at the municipality. I know when the things were starting to change before Christmas, the senior management team came together very quickly, made some decisions, made some changes to how the staff was split up to make sure that if we were faced with an infection that was spreading, that we had two teams so that we would not be down, we would not be closed. There's other municipalities who have closed their office altogether, and I believe that we remain here serving the public, albeit somewhat differently than the normal, whatever normal is anymore. It seems so far removed now, but realistically, we were prepared for this shutdown before it even happened. And that's all because of the senior management team and the staff that support them and their willingness to adapt on a moment's notice. So thank you to the CAO, thank you to the senior management team for not only this budget, but everything else you do on a daily basis, and especially under COVID-19 circumstances, because we just never know what we're faced with the next day. So thank you very much for your hard work. With that, I will read the confirmatory bylaw, and I'll need a mover. Sorry, Madam Clerk, go ahead.
It's all the bylaws that you're going to be
And then the confirmatory bylaw. Got it. So I'll read this motion out before I get a mover and a seconder, and it's that 3 readings and final passage be granted to bylaws number 21001, 21-002, number 21003, 21004, 21-005, 21-006, 21-007, 21-008, and that 3 readings and final passage be granted to bylaw number 21-009, being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the corporation of the Township of Leeds in the Thousand Islands at its committee of the whole meeting held on January 11th, 2021, and council meeting held on January 18th, 2021. Mover and a seconder for that motion, please. Councillor Olkey and then Deputy Mayor Lackey. Any discussion on the motion at hand? Seeing none, I will call the question. All those in favor, please signify. All those opposed, and the motion is carried. And the last motion on the agenda is meeting to adjourn. Mover and a seconder for this motion. Councillor Deputy Mayor Lackey, and then Councillor Fody, I think I saw your hand up. That the council meeting adjourn. All those in, Madam Clerk, it's non-debatable.
I forgot you wanted to make an announcement about a special meeting on February 1st.
Oh, correct.
The end of the presentation.
Correct. So on February 1st, we're asking that council come in an hour earlier, much like a special planning meeting being held. And what it is a delegation from the Fire Master Plan consultants. We are looking to have this special meeting and providing notice in advance meets a number of our obligations, but mainly because we want to be able to have fulsome discussion in regards to this amended presentation, because the plan was presented to us, but was lacking some information, which we sent back and asked for further clarification and detail. And I believe that this will give us the opportunity to ask the consultants as well as the staff, and then we will vote on it at the meeting thereafter. So that's February 1st, 5:30 p.m. and obviously we'll be on Zoom. Okay. Thank you, Madam Clerk. So now I will call the question on the adjournment. All those in favor of adjournment, please signify. All those opposed, and it's carried. You only get one vote, Councillor Jameson. Nice try. Anyways, thank you everyone for your time this evening. Stay healthy, stay safe, and we will see you next month on February 1st at 5:30. Thank you.